part as well. The flute 1 and flute 2 parts are more or less the same. There's only just a couple different notes, so it's not that big of a difference. Okay. All right. So the first thing I'd like to do is everything I'm going to do on these videos is going through things slowly, and then you will be able on your own to go a little bit faster when you need to and do some different things. But for what I want to do is I want to give you kind of that beginning part. Excuse me. Is I want to kind of give you that beginning part so that you can start learning it, because my worst fear, besides you not playing at all, my worst fear is that you would spend time on this and actually learn it incorrectly and then come back and realize you have done it wrong this whole time. And that's a waste of your time in the bands. Okay? All right, so here's what you have. All right, so take a look at that. You got 3 measures of rest, and then you come in on beat 4 of the 4th measure. All right, so if you take out the slurs, and don't worry about the slurs at all, is just straight 16th notes. And it's going to look like I'm looking in another direction. That's because I am. Okay, so I'm going to have this up for you, and I'm going to read it off of my TV screen. Okay, so what you have is 1, 2, 3, 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 4 and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 and 1 and a 1 and a 1. Okay, and I'm sorry I said a couple of those numbers wrong. So let me start here. Okay, that would be 2, 3, and a 1 and a 1 2 goodness gracious. So I'm making mistakes now. So it's 1 and a 2 and a 1 2 and a da 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 da. Okay, so it's a little bit weird looking. Sorry, it's a little bit weird looking. So what I would do is take out those ties. Okay, and you can see here, this is the one you got to be careful of. And I realize for those of you reading this on Google Classroom, it is a little bit hard to see where the 16th note markings are on the lines. So that's why I want to make sure you have this as well. So we have ta 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 ta. Okay, and then you put in the tie, ta 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 ta. All right, so here you have 3 3 ta 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 ta, and then it ends with a 4 and a. Okay, so 3 4, or sorry, 3 4 and a. Okay, 3 4 and a. Da 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 da. All right. So now here's the good news. Good news is if you look carefully through these parts, you get the same couple of rhythms each time. Okay. Now right here, it gets you have to really look at these ledger lines and make sure you're counting all the way up. I would suggest trying to play it down the octave first. Okay, so that if you're looking at it, you can make sure that you've got the rhythm first. Okay, now here's what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play for you a little bit of the recording and move along with you in the part. Okay, that way, again, these are on the YouTube channel and they're on Google Classroom. That way you can listen to it and find your part in it. Okay. Okay, and that's actually where I want to stop. Okay, for this week, my goal is to look from 1 to 17. That's all I want to look at. Okay, so if you will take that and look at it, compare it with the recording, and here's the flute 2 part. The flute 2 part is actually the same rhythms, but here it's actually down the octave. Okay, so if you were having trouble with those ledger lines, it's G's and F's mostly. Okay, so that's the flute part. All right, so take a look at that, and if you have questions, and we're going to have examples for you as well to where you can play through some of that stuff. Okay, clarinets, clarinet 1 and 2. All right, welcome clarinets. There are only 2 clarinet parts in this one. So what I am doing is I've got it pulled up on my PlayStation, okay, to where I can see it there. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have it here for you as well, and we're going to kind of count through a little bit of it. If you take a look at the first clarinet part, okay, and you're not sure if you can play a lot of those notes, then take a look at the clarinet 2 part. Okay, clarinet is one of those hard instruments in marching band because it jumps up very quickly. Okay, so if you want to take a look at this part first, that's fine with me. Okay, the rhythms are actually exactly the same. It's just some of the notes are higher than others. Okay, so we're going to take a look from 1 to 17. That's my goal this week, is to look from 1 to 17. So good news and bad news. The good news is it's not terribly fast, and it's actually a lot of the same notes. Now, the bad news is it's in 16th notes, and there are some ties in there that can throw off your rhythm just a little bit. Okay, so if I look like I'm looking over here, it's because I'm trying to read it off the screen because I'm looking at a mirror image and trying to read it backwards, and that's not going to happen. Okay, so from the beginning, you got 3 measures of rest. So we're going to go super slow. All right, so in measure 4, we get 1, 2, 3, 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 4 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 1 and 1 E 2 E E E E Okay, and that gets a little bit harder there. So let's take just a look at this rhythm right here. Okay, so this rhythm is 1 and 2 E and. So you get 1 and 2 E and because they're tied right here, we'll put those together. So we get 1 and 2 E and becomes 1 and 1 and okay, or sorry, E 1 and E and 1 and E and. Okay, this one here, and this is a little hard to see on Google Classroom, is 16th, 8th, 16th. 1 E 1 E All right, so we get 1 E and, sorry, I'm trying to read this backwards. 1 E and 1 E da 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 da. Okay, and then it ends with a 4 E and, or 4 and sorry, again, I'm reading this backwards. I'm having a little bit of trouble. Okay, so da 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 da. All right, and you'll be able to hear it in the recording from there. Okay, all right. So then we get to here, same idea. All right, da 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 da. Okay, then finally we get this little rhythm here, and okay, and that's a little bit trickier there, and it says like an echo, and you'll hear it in just a minute. Okay, so what I would do is you can go back and forth and do that a few times. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the recording, Okay? And from the recording, I'm going to follow along with you so you can hear what it's supposed to sound like with you. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same thing on the clarinet 2 part. All right? Rhythm is exactly the same. The only difference is the fingers. All right? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to play it with the recording and follow along with you. Okay? And that's where you need to start. Okay? Playing through those couple of things. Use the recording to your benefit. Okay? And again, if you have any questions, we'll be on in the afternoon and you'll be able to ask us then. Okay? All right, alto saxes. So in this part for y'all, you mostly the alto sax ones and twos are more or less the same thing. Okay? In the alto 2 part, just in case that's what you're peeking at, these are written as cues. We are all going to play this. Okay? So I'm more or less right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look just at the alto 1 part. We're going to be looking at from measure 1 to 17. Okay, 1 to 17. So we've got two things going on here. It's not that fast, okay, but it is a lot of 16th notes. Okay, so what I want you to do is this: is I'm going to go through these couple of rhythms very, very slowly, without the ties and without the slurs. Okay, so you can follow along on your page or you can follow along on this page. All right, so here's measure 4. 1, 2, 3, 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E, 4, 1, 2E and 3E and 4E and 1 and 1. Okay, and that should be that first one. And I just realized I'm actually reading the clarinet part instead of the saxophone part. I hope it's not too different. I apologize. It might be just a little bit different. So let's try that again. Okay, this is the alto 1 part. Here's measure 4. Ready? And 1. 2E and 3E and 4E and 1. 3 and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3. 1 and 1. Okay, so a few more 16ths for you than the clarinet part, so that's my fault. Okay, all right, so let's take a look. Let's break down this next part right here. Okay, so this next part, and I apologize if I make a couple mistakes. I'm trying to read it a little bit backwards. So this next part is 1, 2 E 1, 2 E then it goes 3 and 4 E and. Okay, so it's 1, 2 E 3 and 4 E and. All right, so when I put that together, I get 1, 2 E, 3 and okay, or sorry, E or E and 1, 2 E, 3 and okay, and then it keeps going in that next measure. So we'll get bum 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 bum. Listen again. Bum 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 bum. Ba da dee da, 1, 2, and 4 and. Okay, so these are, if you look at these, a lot of you have done dotted quarters and eighths. This is just the opposite. So it's 1 and 3 and 1. Okay? All right, so here's what I'm going to do. The alto 2 part, again, the alto 2 part is more or less the same thing. It's written in Qs. You will be playing the Qs if you're playing alto 2, so the parts will be the same. It's just some of the notes are lower. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the recording that's on Google Classroom and follow along with you. Okay? And that's where it stops. Okay? We're only going to go 1 to 17 this week. All right, so here it is in the alto 2 part. Let me go back, and so if you're looking at this alto 2 part, you can figure it out as well. Okay, and that gives you a start on that saxophones. Make sure you're checking the key signature, and especially if you're looking at in that second part, making sure that you're doing the accidentals. Okay. All right, tenor saxes. Your part here at the beginning is not very hard, so we're going to take a quick look at it. With any of these parts, it would benefit you to make sure that you're looking ahead just in case. We are only going to go from measure 1 to 17 today, so make sure that you're taking a look at what comes after that. So let's just take a look, please. We're going to go from 1 to 17. Now, I'm not going to count the whole notes with you at this moment. I'm assuming you can do these whole notes. So I'm going to start down here at what looks like measure 11. Okay. So at measure 11, what you're going to do is you actually become the melody there for a moment. Okay. All right. So at measure 11, I'm going to count it very slowly as you read along. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 3 and 1, 2 and 4 and this next part you can see that it's slurred and tied. This right here. More or less what that means is you need to keep holding it, but you'll kind of accent this part. You'll hear that in the recording. Okay, so this part again is 1 and 3 and 1, 2 and 4 and. Okay, very slowly would be that part. Okay. I will just because you don't have as much, let's take just a quick peek after 17, just for that rhythm. Okay, so if I measure 17, so to be 1, 2, and 1, 2 and 3, and 1. Okay, so obviously you got some more stuff coming, but that's just to get you started. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the recording, and you can listen along to the recording on this, and then you can listen to it in Google Classroom as well. So here's from the beginning. Junior, make sure you take a look at the key signature. Okay, and that gets you all the way up to measure 21. Okay, so those are the kinds of things that we're going to be looking at. I want you to focus on those measures. Obviously, if you want to keep going, that is always a good idea. Just make sure that you're doing it correctly. Okay. All right, trumpets. So trumpets, what we're going to do is, as we're looking at another brick in the wall, what we're going to do for y'all is you actually have a lot of rest at the beginning. So what I'd like to do is just kind of count through a couple of things once you come in, especially seconds and thirds. Okay. Now I know most people, everyone wants to play first part and things like that. And you can take a look at any part that you want. Okay, but make sure that as you're doing so that you are looking at a couple of these different things. Okay, if you take a look at the part and you look at it and go, it's just too high, the notes are too high for me, then you're probably not going to play first part, and that's fine. Okay, we need all three parts. There's not a lot of trumpet in this versus maybe some shows we've done in the past, but the difference is the parts that are trumpet are really big and really, really important. Okay? All right. So let's take a look. Y'all come in there at measure 13. Okay? So measure 13 for the first part is just 1, 2, 3, and a 1 and 1. Okay, so not rhythmically that hard, but it is up there and it needs to be huge. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the second part. So seconds, same place, measure 13. 1, 2, 3, and a 1 and 3 and 1. So take just a quick look at sorry, I'm a little thrown. This measure again. All right, so that measure after you've held, you're gonna get off of this note for beat 3, and it'll be 3 and 1. Bum ba dum bum bum. Okay. Thirds. Oops. Thirds. Your part is more or less like the seconds. Okay. So it's 1, 2, 3, and a 1 and 3 and 1. Okay, 3 and 1. Okay, and that's y'all's entrance. Now, if y'all will all take a look at measure 17, I'm going to show you the first part. but all the trumpet parts are actually the same at measure 17. Okay, and we'll do 17, 18, and 19, and that's actually all we're going to do for right now. Okay? All right, so at measure 17, everyone's rhythm is 1, 2, and 2, and 3, and 1. Okay, so listen again. I'll make sure I'll say the right things this time. 1, 2, and 2, and 3, and 1. Okay? Now, if you want to keep going after that, that is your prerogative. You're more than welcome to. A lot of the rhythms after that are actually the same thing. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play you the recording and follow along in the recording. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do the second part. Because the trumpet 1 part is obviously very easy to hear in the recording, and I want to make sure that we're seeing when we're moving. Okay, so here's the beginning. Measure 7's where this mellophone part is, and baritone. One. Okay, so that's a very easy thing you can do is y'all can go through it. You can do it slowly, and then try to play it with the recording as much as possible. Okay, thank you. All right, mellophones. So what we're going to do is take a look at another brick in the wall. And what we're going to do, mellophones, is I'm going to kind of count through a few things with you. And then we're going to listen to the recording and see if we can put a little bit of this together. Now, there's only one mellophone part, but you can see on the part that it divides in a couple of places. I am super excited to get this full mellophone section with 12, 13 of y'all. It's going to be something really special. So let's make sure that we're learning these parts together. Okay? So you start with 6 measures of rest. And sorry, I'm going to change it real quick on my Google Classroom. I have a little trouble reading this backwards, so I have to have it up on the screen so I could see it with my old eyes. Okay? All right, so there it is. All right, now, you guys and girls, excuse me, are actually the melody for most of this beginning part. Okay? Now, I haven't 100% decided, but I might make this a solo here at the beginning. Okay, so it'd be a good thing for all of you to learn. But from here to here, I'm really considering making this a solo. So make sure that you are all learning it. Okay? All right, so let's just slowly, we're going to count through it. Okay, so here's measure 7, 3, and 1, and 1, 2, and 1, and 3, and 1, 2, and 4, and 1 E, 2, and 3, and 1. Okay, and we're going to stop right there. So let's take a look really quickly at this divisi part. Okay, so this divisi part is 1 E, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, and you see you got ties here. Okay, so it becomes Ba da 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 da. Okay. Ba da 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 da. These two parts here are melody. Okay. All right. So, and that's all we're going to look at today. We're just going to look at 1 to 17. All right. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the recording for you and follow along in the recording, please. Okay. So that's the spot I'd like you to take a look at with your mellophones. And just a couple things, eighth graders, well, upcoming ninth graders. There are a couple of notes in here when you're playing mellophone that change just a little bit from French horn. So here's the good news: you might have a horn at home, and that's fine. But you're going to want to make sure that you make these couple of changes. The way I like to think of it is C's, D's, and E's are where you're going to have your most changes. Okay, so you've got B flat is your first finger, B natural is your middle finger, and this is in the staff. Okay, this is trigger stuff. So C is open because there's no trigger on a mellophone. Okay, C sharp is 1 and 2. Okay, D is 1. That is really the biggest one that most people miss because D on the French horn is 1 and 2 with the trigger. D is just 1, your first finger on a mellophone. D sharp, E flat is your middle finger, and E is open. Okay? So those are a couple of things that you want to look at. What I would do is if I was you and I was learning mellophone and playing it kind of for the first time. I know y'all played a little bit in pep rallies, but obviously these are going to have a little bit more than, the war chant. Look up a trumpet fingering chart on Google. Just Google trumpet fingering chart, and it's the exact same fingers. Okay? All right, trombones. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at another brick in the wall. So if you can pull up that music or at least get to where you can see it as much as possible. What we're going to do is we're going to go from the beginning to right about 17. Okay? That way we can kind of work on this together. Now, I'm going to start with the trombone 1 part. Okay? Now, at this moment, I'm not going to sit here and count all these whole notes for you. I'm hoping that you are going to be able to do this. Now, here's the trick. Do not skip the whole notes when you are playing it, because you do need to be able to play these notes. Okay? Now, before we get to the rhythm, the first thing you might see on here is smear. Smear more or less means don't tongue. Okay, so as you go from C to D to C, you are just not using your tongue. It's like a glissando, but you're going from one note back to the other. Okay, and then the second part, it goes from a G to an A natural back to a G. So you're going 4-2-4 or 3-1-3 and going wah is more or less the effect it's going for. Okay. All right. So what I want to do is actually I want to come down to this rhythm. So you have an eighth note followed by a dotted quarter. So this would be, if this is the tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 3 and 1, 2 and a 1 and 1. is how that's going to work. Okay, so all this first note's on beat 1, and this third note is on beat 3. Ba da dee da. Okay, and then we got a tie here, and this is on the and of 4. Ba dee da is how it'll be in the actual recording. Okay, now let's just take a quick look at this next little part, because a lot of you've got a lot of white notes, a lot of long notes. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking over here. I should be looking over here. This is 1 and a 2 and 3. I'm sorry, there's a rest in that measure. So this is 2 and a 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 1. All right, so at 17 you get 1. Da 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 is what it would be very, very slowly. Okay, now second trombones. Second trombones. It's a lot of the same things, but the second trombone part in this is actually very, very important, because you're going to move differently than them, and your part is lower, so it's always more important. Okay, so I'm going to making sure that you are actually starting all of these on beat 2. You see that the trombone 1 doesn't have that. So you got to start on beat 1, 2, 2, 2. That same smear that I talked about just a moment ago. Okay, and then you have 4 and 1. Okay, and a 1 and then this rhythm is the same. Bum ba da da. Ba 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 is what that would be. All right, so here's what I want to do. I'm going to play the recording and have you follow along in the music with me. Okay, so we'll start with the let's start with the trombone 2 part, since that's what I have up. Okay. Do, do, do. Okay, so you see how important your part is. You're a lot of the bass, and y'all will hear me say it a lot, is that bass is so important. That's what makes marching band. Okay, here's trombone 1. Okay, so that gives you the start on that. The same thing. You can keep going as much as you want, but that's where I want to end today. Okay. All right, baritones. So most of you are doing baritone in bass clef. Baritones. I wanted you to know that we're trying to get Gabriel Cosner, shout out Gabriel, to convert over to baritone for this marching band season. So I will be looking at a little bit in treble clef as well for him. So just know, Kitsia, Glenn, Taylor, especially, if y'all will reach out and help him with what it's supposed to sound like. Because the hardest thing for moving from trumpet to baritone is seeing a note on the page and it coming out a lot lower than what you're used to and trying to find that note. Okay? All right, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time with this first part. Oh, I'm sorry, we're in another brick in the wall. I want to go from 1 to about 20. Okay, y'all have a lot of melody in here. Okay, a whole lot of melody. I am very much considering making measure 7 a mellophone and baritone duet. Okay, so just one person. I haven't decided that completely, but I am considering it. Okay, so make sure this is the melody, so you got to make sure that you're learning that part. Okay, so from 7, let's just go really slowly. 1, 2, measure 7, and 1 and 1, 2 and then you hold. Okay, and then it repeats. Or no, excuse me, it doesn't repeat. This is different. 1 and 3 and 1, 2 and 4 and. Okay, so don't let this throw you off. This is beat 1 and 3 and. Okay, so let's skip down to here real quick. So this is 1 and a 2 and 3. I'm sorry, I missed that quarter rest. And then 2 and 3 and 1. Okay, so it's bum ba bum 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 is how your part would go. Okay, so then in treble clef it'd be the same thing. And remember, Gabriel, all of the notes are the exact same fingers. Okay, that is in treble clef. So this would be ba da dee da 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 da. Okay, is that's all it would be, and it would be about there. Gabriel, let me help you just a little bit. So it would be um that would be your first note. Okay. Do, 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 do. So if that's about where you're aiming, if you think of it, um, it should sound like your part is just down the octave. Okay. All right. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to show you this. This is the bass clef version with the recording. Okay. And follow along with me in the recording. Boom. Okay. So making sure the big thing in here is making sure that you realize what's happening in these other parts, baritones, is like trombone 1 and tuba come in on beat 1. Trombone 2 comes in on beat 2, and you come in on beat 3. The point of that is it actually builds the stagger breathing in for you. It gives you places to breathe, and if everybody does it, it should work out. Okay? All right, good luck. Okay, tubas. Now, I know some of you have concert tubas, and I know some of you have sousaphones. All of that's fine. Okay. I would say my suggestion for those of you with the concert tubas, if you want to go ahead and not use your pinky as we go through some of this, because remember on the sousaphones, they're all 3 valves. Okay. All right. So we're going to take a look at another brick in the wall. This opening part is not really that difficult for you, so I'm going to skip around in some different places so you can go ahead and start taking a look, because we need this to be nice and solid. Okay, so we're in another brick in the wall. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through it. Okay, and then we're going to listen to the recording and kind of do it together. Okay, all right. So here's the biggest thing you need to understand as tuba players. Um, this song has the stagger breathing kind of worked out for you. So what happens is y'all come in on beat one and fours, ones and fours. Okay. The trombones have something. Trombone one has something different. Trombone two has something different, and baritones have something different. So it is imperative that you play on these beats so that it sounds like it's going all the time. So that we get 1, 4, and then you could maybe sneak a breath somewhere in here. 1, 4, all the way through there. So it's on ones and fours. Okay, then we get 4 and 1, 4, no big deal. Don't worry about this low G, not going to be heard on the field. Okay, so everybody's going to play top notes here, and then we will split on this one, and we'll determine that by the chair placement things that y'all are going to be doing by the end of the semester. Okay? All right, so what I want to do actually is, because a lot of it's whole notes. Okay, now don't get thrown off. Yes, this is easier than the Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff, but that's just one song, so don't get too excited. Okay, but this is a chance for us to show off some different things. But I do want to take just a quick look down here, okay, where it gets a little bit harder. Okay, so this is and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3, and all of them are very long. Okay, and you see right here, simile means similar. So these are all long notes, and then we will split here. Okay, if we end up not splitting, that means everybody will be on top notes. So go ahead and be looking at those notes. Okay, so here's what we're going to do, tubas, for this one. Luckily, it's not rhythmically nearly as hard as some of the Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff and some of the other songs that we're doing. So what I'm going to do is play the recording, and you follow along with me.